I never thought family could hurt me more than the world outside. I never felt so betrayed, not by strangers, but by the people who were supposed to love me most. From the outside, we looked like a normal family. We shared meals, shared laughs, shared memories. But behind closed doors, things were very different. In fact, things were about to get worse. Cut to me standing in a quiet room. I remember the day clearly. That day when they gathered around like they were ready to pass judgment. That day when they accused me, not gently, not with concern, but with cold, cutting words. They called me a beggar, a dreamer with no real future, a burden on the family, someone who didn't deserve respect. Can you imagine how that feels? To be looked at like you're nothing. To have your own blood twist the knife with words. Pause. Slow breath. They thought I had nothing to give, nothing to offer, nothing to be proud of. But they didn't know the real story. They didn't know what I had been fighting for behind closed doors. They didn't see the days I worked without sleep. They didn't witness the nights I cried myself to sleep, but still woke up determined to push forward. Visual. Shots of old notebooks, journals, and work apps. You see, success isn't always neat. It isn't always flashy. Most of the time, it's messy. It's sweat, it's doubt, it's moments of fear and insecurity. But it's also resilience. It's belief in something bigger. It's hope, even when everything else seems lost. Cut to me walking outside, sunrise in background. So when they told me I was nothing, I decided to turn that pain into fuel. I stopped arguing. I stopped begging for respect. I started building instead. Every question they asked sarcastically, "What are you really doing?" I answered with action. Every sneer became motivation. Every doubt from them became belief in me. Visual. Fast cuts of hard work. Typing, recording, reading, brainstorming. I worked on new ideas. I learned new skills. I pushed myself harder than I ever thought possible. And slowly, very slowly, things began to change. People started to notice. Doors began opening. Opportunities emerged where once there were only closed walls. But the most powerful moment came when I became successful in their eyes. Not to show them up, not to gloat, but to prove something important. Your words may hurt me, but they will never control me. Your doubt may slow me down, but they will never stop me. Emotional pause. Gentle music rises. Here's the truth. Success doesn't come from proving others wrong. Success comes from proving yourself right. When you believe in your purpose, when you work for it every single day, when you refuse to quit even when the world says you should, that's when life starts to shift. And yes, even the people who once doubted me eventually came to see a different version of who I became, not through force, but through results. Slow montage of progress, growth charts, grateful messages, achievements. This isn't just my story. This is a reminder for anyone who's ever been looked down on, anyone who's felt dismissed, anyone who's been told you're not worth it. Listen, your journey isn't defined by how others see you. It's defined by how you see yourself. And if you wake up every day determined to be better than yesterday, then you're already winning. Camera closes in on face. Calm music. So today, I choose peace. I choose growth. I choose joy over resentment. I choose progress over anger. And I choose to keep going, no matter what. Fade out with uplifting music and text on screen, "Your journey matters."
The day my family found out about my success didn't happen in some dramatic way. There was no big announcements, no celebration. It happened quietly, through whispers. One cousin saw my name online. An uncle heard I was working with big clients. A neighbor told them I was no longer struggling. And suddenly, the same people who once ignored me began asking questions. Not because they cared, but because now I mattered. I remember sitting alone in my room that night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything I had been through. The nights I had skipped meals, the times I had been humiliated, the tears I had wiped away so no one would see. And I asked myself something that changed everything. Do I want revenge, or do I want peace? Because deep down, I realized something painful but powerful. They weren't evil. They were afraid. afraid of someone who dared to break the rules, afraid of someone who didn't accept the limits they had accepted for themselves. People don't always hate your failure, they fear your success. A week later, there was a family gathering. Same house, same faces, same walls that had once echoed with insults. But this time, I walked in differently. Not louder, not arrogant, just stronger. I wasn't wearing expensive clothes. I wasn't trying to show anything off. I was wearing confidence, and they felt it. The room went quiet when I entered, not because I demanded attention, but because they could sense I was no longer the person they used to look down on. One of them finally spoke. "So, we heard you're doing well." The words were polite, but the tone wasn't. I smiled gently. "I'm doing better than I was. Not rich, not powerful, just peaceful." They didn't know how to respond to that. You see, people expect success to look loud. They expect it to brag. They expect it to show off. But real success is silent. It doesn't need to prove anything. It just exists. As the evening went on, the conversation slowly changed. They asked about my work, my plans, my future. Not because they respected me yet, but because now they were curious. And curiosity is the first step toward respect. Later that night, my mother sat beside me. Her eyes were tired, not from age, but from regret. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We didn't understand you." And for a moment, I felt the weight of years of pain begin to lift. I could have reminded her of every insult, every time I was told I was useless, every time I was made to feel small. But I didn't, because healing doesn't come from reopening wounds. It comes from letting them close. "I know," I said softly, "but I'm okay now." And I was. That night, I realized something beautiful. Sometimes you don't get justice, you get growth. Sometimes people don't apologize the way you want, but life shows them the truth anyway. And sometimes the best revenge is living a life so full that the past no longer has power over you. So if you're watching this right now, feeling invisible, feeling underestimated, feeling like even your own people don't believe in you, listen to me. Your story is not over. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. And one day, the same voices that doubted you will speak your name differently, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it.
After that night, everything inside me changed. Not the money, not the recognition, but the way I saw myself. For years, I had walked with my head down, afraid of being judged. Now I walked forward, not proud, not arrogant, just aware of my worth. But healing is never instant. Some of my relatives still looked at me with jealousy behind their smiles. Some whispered when I passed. Some tried to suddenly become friendly, not because they loved me, but because they saw opportunity. And that hurt more than their hatred ever did, because fake love cuts deeper than honest cruelty. One day, my cousin came to me with a business idea. He was the same one who once laughed when I told him my dreams. "I knew you would succeed," he said. I looked at him quietly. "No, you didn't," I replied calmly, "but that's okay." That moment wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. People don't support your dream when it's invisible. They support it when it becomes profitable. And I accepted that reality. But I made a decision. I would not become bitter. I would become better. Weeks passed. Work kept me busy. Messages came from people who had never noticed me before. They wanted help, advice, opportunities. But something inside me kept pulling me back to one thing, my younger self, the kid who was once told he would never be anything. So I went back to the old neighborhood. Same broken streets, same struggling families, same hopeless eyes. And I saw him everywhere. Kids with dreams too big for the world around them. Teenagers who felt trapped. Young people who were already giving up. And I knew what I had to do. I started mentoring them, teaching them, not just about money, but about belief. Because success begins in the mind before it ever reaches the hands. One boy told me, "My family says I'm useless." I smiled sadly. "So did mine," I replied.
and I showed him what was possible. Slowly, word spread. Not about my money, but about my heart. People stopped seeing me as the family disappointment. They started seeing me as someone who lifted others, and that changed everything. One evening, I stood alone on my balcony watching the city lights. For the first time in my life, I wasn't angry. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just grateful. Because the greatest victory isn't success, it's peace. And peace is what I finally had. Years passed. Not days, not months, years. And during those years, something incredible happened. I didn't just grow financially, I grew emotionally. The anger faded, the bitterness dissolved. The need to prove anything disappeared. One day, I received a phone call. My father was sick. The same father who once looked at me and said, "You will never be anything." For a moment, my heart froze. Life has a strange way of bringing the past back to your door, not to hurt you, but to see how much you've healed. I went to see him. The house felt smaller than I remembered. The walls that once felt powerful now felt weak. He was lying in bed, thinner, quieter. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. "I was wrong," he whispered. Those 3 words were heavier than any apology. I thought I was protecting the family, but I was really protecting my own fear. I sat beside him. "I don't hate you," I said. "I just wanted to be seen." And in that moment, something finally broke free. Not him, me. I realized I didn't need revenge. I didn't need validation. I didn't even need forgiveness. I had already won, not because I was richer, but because I was free. Later, at his funeral, I stood quietly as relatives gathered, the same ones who once called me nothing. But this time, there was no jealousy, no whispers, only respect. Not because of what I had, but because of who I had become. I looked around and understood something beautiful. Your past doesn't define you. Your pain doesn't control you. And the people who once doubted you are just chapters in a story that ends with your strength. I walked away from that place with no anger left in my heart, only gratitude. Because sometimes life doesn't give you a perfect family, it gives you a perfect lesson, and that lesson made me unstoppable. Fade out. Soft piano, final words on screen. They called me a beggar, but I became something far greater. I became myself.